Let's begin with a prayer, followed by a 5-minute guided meditation. Please be seated, as comfortable as possible. Relax. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. Sit straight, comfortably, and take 3 deep breaths. Picture the mind as a calm lake stretched endlessly before you, and the thoughts that come and go as ripples, rising and breaking on its surface. Stay still and allow the ripples of thoughts to drift. Make no effort to stop the ripples. Do not control the thoughts, but watch them. Imagine the thoughts float away. Breathe steadily, rhythmically, with the slow ripple motion. Hold fast to the idea that you are the witness to the thoughts, to the mind, to yourself. Let the light of the mind spread all along, removing the darkness and showing the path to wisdom. The rising sun in the horizon of the lake. Thou art that. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We are assembled here on this holy day a Sunday in this Vivekananda study circle held every week. It happens to be a holy day, doubly holy day. The second reason being the birth tithi of Swami Advaitananda, who is the monastic disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. He is the only one of the 16 disciples who was elder to Ramakrishna. About 8 years he was elder, and he used to be affectionately called as the Buddha Gopal, the elder Gopal. Not much conversation is available, but he was a man of integrity, dedication and service. He stayed with the 16 disciples after the demise of Sri Ramakrishna and helped the growth of the Sangha in many ways. He was a ameliorating factor among the young ones. You know, when elderly are there amidst the young ones, the nerves get pacified. And he was a very strict follower of Vivekananda's, so to say, rules and regulations. So he made interestingly, he wanted the youngsters to study Sanskrit. And not simply ABCD of Sanskrit, but really deep study of Sanskrit. So he introduced the Vyakarana, Siddhanta Kaumudi, to be studied. And this elderly gentleman, 60 years or 60 plus, near about 65 plus, he too sat with the book and started studying along with the youngsters. So somebody asked, oh, he used to follow the leader, not to question. The leader makes the rule or paves the way for everyone. Swami Vivekananda, oftentimes he referred to this particular character of an Indian mind, saying that each one of us is so individualistic and so great in their own merit, so much so that the individual merit overshadows the collective purpose. And each one wants to start an organization of his own. While an organization is supposed to be a group of people working towards a cause, Swami Vivekananda was very quick to see that the land filled with genius is completely polarized, in the sense that every individual was so individualistic and not willing to work together. Such was the occasion when the Ramakrishna mission and the Mutt got to be instituted, and the young minds of the Bengal, to begin with, as well as the minds from the other states, started contributing. So he says that the Indians lack in the power of organization, and he set up this organization precisely along those lines to galvanize the potential and put it to big use. But at the cost of the individual's acute growth. When you put an organization, the individual will have to come up with some self-compromise. The reason is some amount of his individualistic growth will be curtailed. That's obviously true, because an institution always brings in an inertia. But then the institution is meant for a collective good. And in order to achieve that, the individual must make that little personal sacrifice. It's not entire, but a little personal sacrifice. Because on a longer run, he only stands to gain. The maker of human destiny, we will ramble through the thought forest of Vivekananda in the next 45 minutes. I wish the discussion is pretty interesting as well as to end it must be, a dialogue. To begin with, let us recall to memory the tale of a drowning man. It's a very popular tale. Almost all of you would have heard about it, but in order to fix the context, let's go through this tale for once more. So there was this guy living in a humble home. All of a sudden, there were torrential rains, and the lakes and the pools and the dams, they started filling up, overflowing into the streets, and the streets were flooded. So he could see many of these young swimmers, in fact, crossing the flood with the power of their muscle, and then telling this guy, the hapless little child, "Hello, sir, you can alight on my shoulders. I can take you across." But then this boy said, "Sorry, sir, thank you very much for your help. I know I am a believer of God. God will help me. I don't have to resort to little helps, lesser helps. The God, the big man, is there for me always. He will help me." He said, "Okay, help yourself," and then he went by. The water was still well knee past the knee, and then there was a guy who was rowing a yacht, and still the boy was calling for the help from God. So the yacht called him, and then said the yachtsman called him and said, "Would you like to alight on this so that we can ferry across?" He said, "No, no, my Lord has the means for me. I shall not rest on my decision. The Lord has the means. I will wait for his call." He allowed the yachtsmen to go by, and then came a boat, then came a ship, then the water covered the entire house. He went to the terrace. From the terrace, he was yelling for the help from God. Then, the state actually by then has alarmed the red alert, saying that there is an emergency. And the aerial support started pouring in. The CRPF started bringing in the helicopters, and then tried to put the escape net and ask him to climb. And then this fellow still went on chiming the old prayer, saying that the Lord is there to help. I am waiting for him. Why you, the lesser mortals? I am waiting for the big help to come from the above. And then, as the fate would have it, the water covered the whole building, and then he got drowned. But then, as the fate would have it, all these souls have to face so-called the judgment day. And then he was called before the court of God. And then he made a complaint saying that I completely depended on you, and then you let me die? You let me die unattended? How unbecoming of you, oh the Savior, I've been calling you all my life now. But then the God said, how many forms should I come and call you? First I came as a swimmer, then the yachtsman, the boatman, out, and ultimately the helicopter to airlift you. And even then, if you are not going to help yourself, hear my call, even God cannot save you. I mean, see, this is one of the very, very interesting story. But the best part is the timing of the story. When do you get to hear the story? Before the calamity or after the calamity? I was so fortunate that I heard the story even during my formative years. And then I was really impressed. And then I thought that if at all God is going to come and help us, the force which is beyond our reckoning is to come and save us. He has to, so to say, use the worldly means. It's not outwardly. So the destiny needs a proper perspective. So the boy was blaming the destiny that the God did not help his destiny to flourish. But then he says, but the destiny was always your choice. While I could only present them for you, but it was always your choice. So the Cambridge Dictionary goes about saying this: the particular state of a person or thing in the future considered as resulting from earlier events. Some events, they happen and they decide so-called the flow of the events in the future. Okay. The same dictionary gives a second meaning. Destiny is the force that some people think controls what happens in the future and which cannot be influenced by people. It's totally opposite, you see. The past events are giving a pedestal for the future events to be enacted. That's point number one. The point number two says, but it cannot be influenced by people. So what does it mean? That means what happens to your present? The present actions seems to be a predestination of all the accumulated events or the forces of the past. Do we submit to this opinion or do we have something else? So the thing is only the events of the past going to determine the events of the present? Or events of the past plus an epsilon, for the mathematicians delta, for the physicists gamma. Okay, so whatever be the symbol, each of this is coming from the present. Do we have control over that epsilons and gammas and deltas? That's entirely the subject of destiny. Well, there is another important thing that we need to reckon ourselves at this point is, for whom destiny matters? Why would somebody who is in the full blush of the youth, who thinks that the tomorrow doesn't exist and the entire life is about today? I mean, is he going to really question about destiny? I ask each one of you, have you ever thought about trying to answer this puzzle called destiny? Never. At least I never thought about during my formative years, what is going to be destiny and what is the impact on my life. I've never thought about it, frankly speaking. So, who actually thinks or talks about destiny? You know, oftentimes we see this guy, this young boy, who was not in a position to safeguard himself, who was in the clutch of so-called impending sufferings, who was unable to bail himself out of the predicament, helplessly seeking out for help that is beyond his means, was actually thinking about destiny. Quite often we will see that this is the situation we go through. That a person, when he loses hope or when he fails in the initiatives, that is the time he starts dabbling with the idea of destiny. Not the man who is successful. Success counted sweetest for those who never succeed. And these people who don't succeed start thinking, why in spite of all the efforts did I fail? What is the other force that is operating unknown to me that seems to be deciding my fortunes as well as failures? So the destiny becomes an important factor to resolve to his own conscience. It is a methodology that he adopts to resolve his own conscience. So quite often we will feel that a person who talks about destiny is a hopeless guy. But then, who is the person who has not gone through his share of woes? Take Narendra Nath, the hero among the men, the true hero. And what was his formative years? At the threshold of youth, he never knew what poverty is. He never knew what hardship was. He was always enthusiastic, bubbling, and he was a leader among men, even in those young days. Frustration was not in his dictionary at all. But then, he was put through all of these painful human emotional experiences when his father passed away in 1884. He was born in 63. So 63 to 84, he was in prime youth of 21 years. A little over 21 years, when his father passed away, then he found the pinch and the pain of poverty. Why suddenly he became poor? Because of the betrayal. Suddenly the people who were all so friendly with him, who were all so very well-knit relationship, they all broke away. They all made mincemeat of his life. They all took away their share of so-called fortunes, which didn't belong to them to begin with. They looted him. So he was completely laid down by the betrayal. And on top of that, he had to go through a series of litigation over the property, little foothold space that he had to his comfort, so to say, where his mother, sister, and brother can at least peacefully rest at night, even if they are hungry. But even that was jeopardized by the people around. All those people who took help from Vishwanath Datta, the father of Narendranath Datta, everyone turned against him. What kind of a fate is this? What kind of a destiny it is? Everyone will be forced to think, forced to come to this, that what did I do to deserve this? There is not a single soul on the planet which I have hurt. But why is it that something is turning up a storm against my peaceful walk of life? What is happening? Naturally, it is so very fundamental to the human consciousness that he looks beyond the material means, and to him, the destiny matters. To him, the destiny really matters. And what to talk about him being a servant in the future years? He even became an agnostic for a short period of time, where he had to doubt the very existence of the compassionate God. The God is only compassionate only so long as your lifeboat is well afloat. But the moment it goes through the turmoil of the storm, that's when your belief on the compassion and all takes a huge beating. And then he says, who says God is compassionate? He is absolutely not. I mean, he does not know where the help really deserving has to go. He says he's partial. In fact, there is a very philosophical section in Brahma Sutras that defends the position of God with not being partial in showering his compassion. There is a dedicated sutra for that. Anyway, it's all okay when, as I said, your raft is pretty much safe. So when everyone has his share of woes, it is during these trying times when we have to collect ourselves and see what best we can do to salvage ourselves. Swamiji says, so if you talk about destiny, destiny is not something beyond the clouds. There's no single guy sitting above and dictating how, where, and who will be what. He says, one's destiny in his own hands. It is not a prophetic message given from a pulpit. He went through, his body cells went through the suffering and the crying demand for resolving to the destiny. There was every compulsion for him to resolve to the destiny and take it as a matter of fact and allow the destiny to, so to say, rule over him. But he didn't. He resurrected from that state of thraldom and proved to the world what human efforts can bring. There was not a piece of luck that he depended on. It was solely a future of his making. And here is a man who spoke that wisdom out of the personal experience. And he says, one's destiny is in one's own hands. Man, this is a message which is coming from a typhoon of a person. And what kind of a power did he wield? Was it the power of the muscle? Was it the power of the money? What kind of a power? Or was it a pedigreed power? It was just the power of the moral values that he had within himself. The extent of integrity and morality that Swami Vivekananda was symbolic of. He used singularly that particular power to resurrect from the thraldom of existence. And much more. After the passing away of Sri Ramakrishna in 1886, the group was left completely, without a backbone. Imagine the limbs of your body without the backbone. Everything will be just hanging in a limbo state. Such was the condition of the 12 disciples of Sri Ramakrishna in a state of a limbo when Swami Vivekananda had to chalk out the path for success for the economically impoverished and politically impeded nation, of which he had the first-hand experience for 3 years of long journey that he undertook on foot. He came face to face with both the spiritual glory of this nation as well as the socio-economic tragedy that the nation was going through. And the whole thing, sadly, was forced upon this nation. The whole thing was forced upon the nation. It was not the fate of the nation. It was not the destiny of the nation. He was not to reconcile, so to say that it is the talk or the power of the destiny. He says, if this is going to be the present because of the neglected actions in the past, why don't we make a future which is more glorious than the past? And it is there for us to make it. And he woke up the masses. And the only way that he could do was take the destiny in your hands. Don't wait for some force to suddenly come and then work out a miracle. That's not going to happen at all. And how did Vivekananda do it? He was a perfect businessman. He says, give and take must be the policy. Singular policy. You cannot just extend your begging bowl endlessly. You know what happened with Canada after our Indian independence? India was certainly not in a very good financial position. So it went to reach the shores abroad and then asked for a dole of food, wheat imports. And the Canadian minister then said, oh, so you have come higher again with your begging bowl. That was the statement way back in the 50s or maybe early 60s. And comes 2021, India is exporting to the whole world the co-vaccine. Unasked, no begging bowl needs to be extended. We know the need of the hour. We know who is suffering. Take the destiny in your hands and prove to the world what you are capable of doing it. And India did it. We are all proud citizens of that glorious India, which India is now started seeing. The vision which Swami Vivekananda had in the rocks of the Kanyakumari as what is going to be the fate of India for the next 500 years, where the Mother India is going to alight the throne, so to say. A throne of glory which was much more than what India was there in the past. And it has already started showing up. Not with the power of the muscle or with the power of the weapons. India has its own statement to make. And it will do it in the kindest of the spirit. And Swami Vivekananda says, when you make that charity, kneel down and pray, so that the receiver shall stand and permit. The receiver should not be with the begging bowl. And that's the statement which Swami Vivekananda made to us. And India is faithfully following that line of thought and the growth. So now we clearly see where the destiny lies. Each one of your hands are laid down with so many lines. The lines may be crooked, but not the thoughts should be. You can change those lines. The older I grow, the more everything seems to me to lie in manliness. So this new gospel which Swami Vivekananda gave to all of us is this gospel of manliness. Don't mistake, there is no male chauvinistic message here. Manliness is taken with a HU, humanliness, if you want to put it. So because there are often people who get polarized with this idea of extremisms. So the manliness that he talks about is whether you can take the future in your hands. If you can do that, then you are bringing out the true power of the spirit that is within. What dictates the society? What dictates the growth? What is guiding the people around? Is it a few set of government policies and laws? Is it a social contract that we exist together? Is it a mere agreement based on which we pass our daily lives? Just as the red signal goes and the man stops, the green starts and the vehicle moves on. Is it that kind of an automaton that we are programmed to function? These are the soul-searching questions which Swamiji actually wants us to ask. We are not the automaton. The laws are made only for the human being to outgrow them, not to be confined by those laws. And that's where the manliness of Swami Vivekananda's message lies. Okay, so now it's time for a bit of humor. So now that we said that Swami Vivekananda's message of take the fate in your hands. So this guy happens to be an astrologer, a palmist. So he was sitting the roadway and there were a lot of passers-by, some very jostling and some very forlorn. You know who will reach out to these astrologers, right? So the forlorn guys went to the astrologer and then he asked in a very voice of pity and sympathy, saying that, oh, what will come to my future? Can you just do a reading of my hand? So the astrologer took the hand and then he had some pen and pencil and then various wands, hit here and then drawing here. He has his own ways of conducting the business, you know. So he did that in all, following all the rituals, and then that emboldened the person who was sitting there. He said, oh, pretty much strong diagnosis is happening. Okay, I think the reading is going to be pretty strong. And then he said, okay, so yeah, for next 6 months, I think your situation is not going to change, but after that, you're going to get a huge lift in your life. Oh, why? Fantastic. After 6 months, I'm going to get, is it? From where? No, that we cannot say. You're going to get from somewhere. And then he got a bit emboldened. And then he said, Acha, my dear astrologer, I'm a bit curious. Now that I have regained my strength, I would like to ask you one question. Have you read your own palm? He says, oh yeah, of course. Why? If I can read others' palm, why should I not? That's the first thing I did. Then what does it say? He said that I'm going to live on others' foolery. That I'll be fooling others to live my life. So, take the whole responsibility on your own shoulders. That's Vivekananda. He's not the ones to take pillion riders. No helpers. He says that if you want to do something great, okay, see the modern entrepreneurs. The modern entrepreneurs, they start as a nucleus elements. They don't start as an atom. Atom has got a dissipating electron always running about the nucleus. So the nucleus has to be formed. So the entrepreneur forms the nucleus of the whole institution that he's setting forth. And people think that the moment they have an idea, that the idea has to be broadcast to the world and the whole world will have to listen to it and the whole world will have to wait and watch till I grow. I mean, that kind of a fanciful thought cannot be entertained in the modern days. The moment you have a thought of growth, a thought of progress, a thought which can contribute to this whole world, the first thing that really marks you different from others will be, can you live with this thought? In spite of all the opposition that's going to thunder against you, in spite of you crying on top of your voice the utility of it. It may be so the nectarine dose for all the people in the planet. You may be possibly removing the poverty in a trice. You have come up with such a solution, but the world is not ready to listen to you, my dear. Because every individual is an institution. Every individual is an organization by himself. So who is going to listen to whom? So now can you live with this idea? Or are you going to drop the idea and say, shower the curses on the people saying that you guys don't deserve. You have absolutely no right over my idea. You are bound to get doomed. The world is not yet ready for my idea. I mean, these are the things which come to the mind. They are very depressing. But can you muster the strength? That strength lies in the manliness. Not in the free flow of a twig along the waves in the river or in the ocean. A twig can easily grow. But can you drive the ship against the current? Which is the predicament of every growing entrepreneur. And that strength we need. And the first and foremost of that is, we will see down the line, you have to take the whole responsibility on your shoulders and know that you are the creator of your destiny. Okay. It's all nice to, talk excited, and then when you eat rasagulla, the amount of calorie in the rasagulla is going to give you a kick for the next 15 minutes. Correct? You take a cup of coffee, maybe another half an hour, and some more intoxication, maybe 2 hours. Okay, so but then it's going to die out. Is this particular talk that kind of an opium? Is it for an opiating experience? But then, where things go wrong. As we began the whole discussion, when the things get tough, when the tough gets going, the going gets tough. Correct? There's a saying that when the tough gets going, the going gets tough. That is the situation where we have to find out whether we can fight against the toughness. So we need some amount of inspiration, some amount of firepower to recover ourselves and see whether we can do better. So at that time, I remember this story. So there was this guy, a businessman, who was doing well in business, and all of a sudden his business took a nose dive. You know what it means? A crashing landing. So practically, businessmen are so concentrated on their line of business that typically they break down because they put a human amount of effort. Once it is okay, but if you have to do it for the second time, it's really too much. Yeah, a tall order task for the guy. By the time actually, he would have enjoyed some amount of comfort, some pleasure, some smooth going, and he even would have forgotten the formula of recovery. So he decided, okay, I have in front of my table a rope and a bullet. So which one should I resort to? So you know what he's trying to do? So what is he trying to do? Okay, let's set the better. So what happened? So he had a faithful servant, and the servant was serving him for during the times of his growth and glory, and now there is a decline. The servant did not leave him. So he went on sweeping the floor, and he found a small strip of paper on the table saying, rope or a bullet. He has served him for decades, so he knows what is actually running through his master's mind. And then he kept another paper, and he wrote another message in that. He says, if there are 2 choices this way, there will be 200 choices the other way. If there are 2 choices, even in this you have 2 choices. So that means you have not lost your hope yet, because you still have the energy to make a choice. Hope is all about exercising choice. The fact that you are able to exercise a choice at this state of existence, a point of no return, so to say, apparently, if you can entertain in your mind one more slot of a memory cell, then you have 200 more to look the other way. And the rest was history. So Vivekananda cannot be read ignoring Arjuna. You know, these epical personalities, these portrayals are so picturesque, and so real that we find oftentimes that are we as real as this? We sometimes even question whether are we as real as. So the portrayal is so picturesque. The battlefield is the best characterization of the kind of existence every human being is going through this planet. What characterizes the battlefield? You really do not know whether it is an arrow of prosperity or an arrow of penury. You really do not know. If it hits you, you know what it is. So experience alone tells in the battlefield how you have fared. No amount of literature is going to help. No amount of preparation is going to help. That's why the stage battlefield has been so characteristically selected to communicate the message across. And that was the situation when Arjuna was, a double mind. Whether to go ahead with the project or to disband the project on the day of inauguration. Had he done the day before, it made a lot of sense. But on the day of inauguration, how can he think of disbanding the project? Okay, but the project leader was, whether you will call CEO or what kind of a person Sri Krishna can be compared with, I don't know. So, which is the best role that we can give to Sri Krishna in this case? Maybe if project leader, but yeah. So maybe project coordinator, maybe, yeah. So because Arjuna is the project leader, because he wants to lay down the project. So now he says, O Partha, yield not to unmanliness, it befits thee not. Abandoning this base faint-heartedness, rise up, O dreaded hero. This message Swami Vivekananda was very fond of. Because of this one word, yield not to unmanliness. Klaivyam is the word Sri Krishna uses in the Gita. Klibatvam. Klibatvam is unmanliness. Actually, it is too harsh to put this kind of epithet to Arjuna after having known what Arjuna was. If you look back into the becoming of Arjuna, I mean, he had gone through a hell of a lot of struggle, and he perfected himself in almost every discipline of warfare. And he had an impeccable character. That's the reason why Krishna chose Arjuna as the medium to communicate to the whole world. That the person should be as stainless as Arjuna. Now, such a person is being alleged to be cowardly. How is it possible? Why is this such a harsh pronouncement against such a warrior? If you look at it, it says that however strong you may be, but there is an Achilles heel. You know the Achilles heel? Achilles is supposed to be a Greek. Achilles. So Achilles is a Greek warrior. He's a very powerful person. Single-handedly, he can accomplish anything under the sun. Single-handedly can accomplish. But the only thing is, if somebody pricks his heel, he will be paralyzed. That is the weakness he has got. That his heel was his weakness. Even a dog can go and with a wagging tail kind of do something to the heel and your Achilles will be paralyzed. So that kind of a strength is of no use. What merit do we have in creating a huge cylinder with a small hole? Anything that you put in it is going to get exhausted. So a bucket with a hole or a cylinder with a hole is not something that we can really be proud of having made. So you may have a personality, but the personality, there are weaknesses. One has to admit this. So that's the reason why when we inspire ourselves with the words of the holy men, the great men, we also have to remind ourselves that it's not a mere encomium that we heap on ourselves and forget the reality. We must work out, chalk out every step in conquering the weakness and standing against all the opposition. For the goodness, remember the purpose. The purpose should be holy enough, and that holy purpose should give you the strength to hold on to it. It should not be tainted with any selfishness. That is Swami Vivekananda. If you want to achieve something great in your life, your greatness should make the nation great. If you want to grow at the exclusion of the others, Vivekananda says, vain is your dream. Because we are all connected. Physically, mentally, socially, economically, politically, geographically, at every plane of our existence, we are hopelessly interdependent. And yet we talk about freedom. If one reads this one shloka, one gets all the merits of reading the entire Gita. For in this one shloka, shall I repeat the Sanskrit verse for you guys? Klaibyam vasmagamav partha naitatvayi upapadyate kshudram, the weakness, hridaya daurbalyam tyaktva uttishta. Tyaktva means give up. Just reject it as poison. It's not going to help you even in 1 millimeter of your progress. Uttishta, rise. Partha. Tyaktva uttishta parantapa. The word parantapa comes as a reckoning of Arjuna's power, his valor. Parantapa means the scorcher of one's foes. Anybody who comes as an enemy will be burnt to death if he is going to face Arjuna. That is the real warrior character of Arjuna. That nothing can face him. So, this is also called as Veera Gayatri. You know, Gayatri mantra, Gayatri is a chandas, and there are Gayatri mantras for various gods and goddesses. So, from the Gita, we get one Veera Gayatri, even though it is not in Gayatri chandas. Anytime you feel, it's something which actually personally also I too have got a lot of benefit from this, because you know, the decision to become a monk is a one-way decision, just like you get into a terrorist organization. You know, it's a parody that I am saying this, but it's as good as that. There is no walking back. Why not I put it in the most prosaic language? Okay, there is no hiding from this fact. Okay, because the institution is not going to disown me just because I compare myself to. We too are terrorists. So we terrorize our own weaknesses. We don't allow the weakness to stand the test of investigation. Every word has got its positiveness, right? So let the stars move from the sphere. You see the kind of hyperbolic message which Swami Vivekananda is giving. Sometimes we need the hyperbole. Hyperbole means actually excessive portrayal. Beyond, can you move your stars? I cannot move this bench. How can you think of moving your stars? But remember, this has got a wonderful caricature with astrology. Astrology is all about study of the position of the planets and their impact on the future and the fortune of the individuals. Correct? They are basically stars which are deciding. Now I say I will move those stars means what? I will move just like I play a chess coin. I will move the coin and place them in the position of a favor. Can you do that? Can you redraw your own charts? Can you redraw? And if you can do that, you have literally moved your stars. You see where the message is coming from. It's not that the stars are governing you, but you are allowing to be governed by the stars. So that's why he says, Let the stars move from the sphere. Thus fight you again, nothing by becoming cowards, taking a step backward. He warns here. What happens if you take a step backward? What happens if you yield to those unmanliness? You do not avoid any misfortune. The misfortune becomes inevitable. Even the little hope that we had to overcome this is lost. So why don't we make a try? I am telling this to the brightest individuals of this nation, which has not yet faced any trouble till now. Okay, so most of it I know that it's going to be a kind of an information. But remember, when you are in trouble, where to look for an answer. Surreptitiously, in a most almost unassuming, clandestine manner, the weakness creeps in. The weakness creeps in. So be fortified with these ideas. Okay, now the stars. Time for another humor. So there was this guy who was having a lot of, what do they call it? Orthopedic illness related to joints, bones, and whatnot. Very variety of orthopedic illness. Maybe due to lack of exercise or whatever. So he went to the orthopedic and then showed him that, sir, my stars don't seem to be favoring my health at all. I'm continuously falling ill, sick, and then the orthopedic took a full view from head to foot and he said, my dear, it's not that the stars are coming in the way, but your stomach is coming in the way. Let us not talk about moving the stars. Can you touch your feet? So, the stomach is the making of our own idleness. It's our own weakness that brings out the stomach. Okay? The adipose tire tissues. Okay. So now a bit of philosophy. I think it's time to take a few questions if you have any. Yeah. How do you know if we are strong? That's a very good question. You seem to be having very good questions. All the 3 times he asked good questions. How do you know that you are going through troubled times? Correct? Well, are you aware that you are going through the trouble? First of all, are you aware that you are going through a troubling situation? That is the first thing. You have to know that there is an enemy that you have to fight against. Have you found out, have you recognized that enemy? If you have done, it is 50% of the war won. Most often, we don't even know who the enemy is. We fight the battle blindfold. Even walking within your room is not possible. Even meditating blindfold these days is not seeming to be possible. Well, meditation is supposed to close your eyes. But the moment you close your eyes, the amount of thoughts that is steaming forward is so much that you get overweight by the burden of those thoughts. Okay, so now my question back to you is, are you aware of the trouble that you are facing? If you are aware, then you know that you are woken up. You are woken. Then, see, there should be a method even in madness, they say. So, whenever you face a trouble, we have to do a bit of introspection. Because that's where you are trying to remove the blindfoldness. Okay, somehow, by the force of circumstances, by some neglectful attitude, I have come into this pit. But to get out of the pit, we need to find out what are the available strengths. So when you basically do a little bit of introspection on the nature of the trouble that you are facing, then you will find the antidote within you. The reason is, most often, Most often, remember this, Swami Vivekananda has said this. I am not saying this. This is an idea which I have appreciated from the bottom of my heart. And all of you should thank this boy for having asked this question. He says, the solution to the problem is in the very locus of the problem. Quote unquote, Vivekananda. If you write it down, the solution for a problem is at the very locus of the problem. Swami Vivekananda gives one example. Okay, it's a kind of an imagery. Okay, examples are not everything. So they say that the sea was going in waves, and then the early men, they saw, the God-abiding men, they all saw, and then they saw, Arey, these furious waves, where are they coming from? Say, certainly there must be a force which is external, and that force apparently seems to be a big sponge upon which the devils are playing a devilish dance. And when the sponge acquiesces, it sucks the water, and when the sponge expands, the water comes out as a wave. And such was the solution. These people took it. He says it's because of some gods and devils which are dancing on a big sponge that is causing these waves. Now can that be a solution? So you are trying to bring in the sponge, bring in the devils, bring in the gods, which is outside the locus of the problem. It doesn't belong to the problem at all. And you are saying that this is caused by that. Swami Vivekananda says, quite often we are looking for solution in this manner. Whenever you look for a problem, solution, look at the very locus of the problem that itself has a mechanism to readjust the problem to show what the solution is. Am I making sense? I can even tell you how a mathematician thinks, how even a physicist thinks. But this is true, much more true with a mathematician. Mathematician wanted to prove an hypothesis. So what does he do? He takes the hypothesis, and then he restates the hypothesis in simpler and simpler language. He breaks down the complicated, complex objects, makes them simplify, and restates. So, the problem which is so complicated and overwhelmingly incomprehensible suddenly start making sense the moment you break down this complex, indivisible blocks into simpler atomic ideas. And these ideas, just as 1 less than 2 less than 3 less than 4, which is a basic fact, these ideas automatically gets ordered by its very atomic property. In atomic properties, the relationship between the atoms are much more evident. Then the linear ordering among these atomic properties becomes obvious. So where did the solution actually come from? This is how a mathematician thinks. He doesn't try to find an out-of-the-box answer from somewhere and then try to post-fit into this. He doesn't try to do that. He tries to find the solution, what is called the simpler version of the hypothesis in the very definition of the hypothesis. Swamiji could not have been more true. This is such a wonderful pill. You get my point? So, that's where your strength is. Can you, first of all, identify the enemy and then dwell in the powers of the enemy and to find the weakness in the very ground of which you can defeat it. That's it. So we come to this. Any other questions? Thank you. Thanks for this. Don't we all have same? Perish. Very good question. I cannot be happier than hearing this question, because the picture is all about that. What are we? Now, our dear Akash, he raises this question. Is it not that all our destinies are same? Everyone is going to die. Very good question. So, when you said all of us are going to die, now tell me, my dear friend, who are we? Now, the scripture gives us a hint. It gives an imagery of a chariot. The sketch is so speckled. Of course, you can recognize the chariot, right? I mean, it is as complicated as what we know about ourselves. So you have a chariot, you have the horses, you have these reins, there's a guy sitting here, and there is a guy sitting here, and then the other parts of the chariot. Okay, now this conglomeration says that the whole thing can be mapped to the human constitution. In the human being, we have senses. The sense of sight, the sense of hearing, the sense of smell, 5 of them, at least 5 common ones that we share with animals. Okay. We do have much more. That is the subject matter for the second semester. So these senses, 5 of them, are controlled by the mind, as it were. Mind is controlling the senses. Okay, so you have a strong urge to go and have a cup of coffee. And then you tell your mind, okay, not now, after half an hour. So that means you have controlled the urge. Okay, the urge of smell, and the urge of thirst, you have controlled it. So with your mind, you have controlled it. So these rings, these ropes are meant to control the senses. Okay, now there is a guy who is sitting here who is having the rope in his hands. Okay, that guy is likened with the intellect the man possesses. The intellect is the discerning capability. Discerning capability means what? The decision making. Completely, absolutely emotion free. This guy has no business with emotions. You go and do a heartful prayer to him, he will be stark silent. On the other hand, you put on the paper, bullet or a rope. The intellect will tell you, take rope. Arey, I am going to die. Will I not die? Will it not be suffering? It has no thinking about it. Arey, you gave me the choice. Why upfront you gave me the choice? You asked me, I told the rope. First of all, you should have given me better choices for me to select. Such is the position of this intellect, hopeless fellow. That's why Swami Vivekananda made a very wonderful statement. He says, whenever there is a conflict between the intellect and heart is the emotional faculty. He says, it's better to listen to the emotional faculty. Don't ignore the intellect, but listen to the emotional faculty. And try to bend the intellect to align along with the heart. Because intellect is an ultimate guide. Okay, so you have to take the intellect. You cannot ignore it. But you can train it. That's why intellect is also compared to the horizon. Horizon. Where is the horizon at 12 a.m.? Can you spot the horizon at 12 a.m.? Okay, if 12 a.m. is very difficult to recognize, at 4 a.m., Marina is close by. Can you spot the horizon at 4 a.m.? You cannot. On the other hand, 5:30, you see, slowly the horizon is showing up. That is, the vision of the horizon is widening from oblivion to its grandeur. So this intellect is also considered as a horizon which needs to be widened. The more you widen, the better will be the discerning capability, the decision-making power. So that means training. That means your intellect has to be trained. Okay, that's a part. That's not the objective of the story here. So such an intellect is sitting here in the middle, and then, why should he decide? For whom is he deciding again? So there is a master apparently sitting inside. Okay, so as if the intellect seems to be serving him. We really don't know who the guy is. We will put him as a wild card. He is the star operator. He is going to be the star performer later, by the way. So we'll put a star operator here. And then in this conglomeration, my dear Akash, tell me, what are you? You tell me. The wild card. If you say that you are that wild card man sitting in the chariot, then you have no death. Then how do you say death is the destiny? It all depends on what you identify yourself with. Are you going to be the lower animal, crippled, crawling on the ground, helping yourself on force, always eternally crying and begging for support and help? You cannot avoid the destiny of death. You cannot. On the other hand, if you just shift the focus and put him at the highest pedestal, and he says that such a person is an outcome of me, upon which even the great histories in the past have been written. Swami Vivekananda says that Buddha and Christ are the waves in the ocean that I am. So that this ocean is endless, this ocean is deathless, this ocean is immortal. This ocean defines others' destiny. The destiny of Christ and Buddha are decided by this ocean. Well, I mean, there is a limit to inspiration, but this is beyond our reckoning. Not meant for IIT. Okay? Because there is too much I-ness in this. Huh? So we should have a tea break now. Okay, so that answers your question, right? So it all depends on what level of... If you are going to consider yourself as a horse, you die a single death and you are dead forever. If you are a mere conglomeration of just the senses, you don't even bother about the mind, then you live a single life and you have a single death. Would you like to have that kind of a model for your existence? If you are happy with it, take it. It's there for your asking. Do you want to reduce yourself to just a mere lightning in the firmament? This moment and the next moment gone. Do you want to be like that? The horses are there for you, my dear. Affectionately hug. And be identified with it for one life. I won't say eternity. And goes from the grossest of the sensory existence, we move up in the plane of subtlety, which is not the subject matter of this discussion. So what are we is a question that we need to answer ourselves. There is no rule of the three. You know what the rule of the three? Rule of the three means if three people agree to one, the fourth also will have to agree. That's called the rule of the three. There is no rule of the three here. You decide. At the end of the day, what I really want to be. But my dear, just because you ask this question, don't think there is a ready-made answer for this. There is no scripted answer for this. Answers cannot be found in the book. Answers cannot be given in the lecture or found in the lecture. Answers will have to be found from the depth of your consciousness, from the depth of your being, by hitting the doors of your existence. That will tell you who that little fellow that you are, that is throbbing with life, that is begging for an identity, for an identification. What are the basic qualifications for chalking our, so to say, our own future? Swamiji says, you have to be truthful. You cannot think something within and seek for something else without. You understand what I'm trying to say here? What Swamiji wants to say is truth. Truth means actually comes along with sincerity, constancy in purpose, and absolutely nakedly true to yourself. There must not be any emotion which is hiding within you that you shovel it under the carpet and then think that it doesn't exist. If it exists, it exists. Acknowledge it. So many things are there within our own constitution. Let that one also be there. What did our meditation went about? It went about observing the thought, not pursuing the thought. Just observe. Okay, my friend. Okay, there is a bit of jealousy in me. Okay, fine, be there. Let me look at you after 6 months. Let me see where you are after 6 months. We don't have to consider ourselves weak just because we have a few weaknesses. Remember, I am carrying the weaknesses. I am not the weakness. I am just carrying it. I can lay it to rest. I can get rid of it. You don't become bad just because you have a few bad thoughts. The room doesn't become unusable just because the foul stench is passing through. Even this shall pass away. Just blow the fans. In no time the whole place will become good. If you want to hasten it, burn the incense sticks. The room will be back usable in no time. You cannot attribute the character of the wind to the character of the body of the room. Just because you had a sickening thought, that doesn't make you sick. You can always bring in a good thought, a counter thought, and make it strong again. So, but for that you have to be truthful. You have to be truthful within, and seek the truth without. Purity, unselfishness. Wherever these are present, there is no power below or above the sun to crush the possessor thereof. Equipped with these, one individual is able to face the whole universe in a position. Vivekananda did it. I mean, he is breathing, every cell is breathing this particular prescription. It is not a mere pulpit talk or the rambling of some mind working out some obscure philosophy. Everything he went through. Purity, Swami Vivekananda says, in the matters of purity I am afraid. He says, the reason is the white cloth, even a smallest stain, will be starkly, contrastingly visible. So he says, it matters to purity, I am afraid. I know I am pure. I will have to guard my purity 24/7. There is not a single moment of time I can relax on that. Because I am afraid that the purity will be put to test. So there is no other way than to be pure 24/7. Unselfishness. You will know. Just for a small instance, Swami Vivekananda was gifted a wonderful cane, a beautiful cane by Raja. He was using that cane, a walking stick, and there was a poor boy who looked at cane and then touched it. He had a little bit of greed, thought going in his mind. I wish I had this cane. I don't know whether he was a mind reader or not. Vivekananda asked this boy, do you want it? The boy nodded shamelessly and he says, take it. You liked it and it is yours. He did not keep anything for the more. He wandered like a free spirit. Never kept anything for himself. Whatever came on the way, he only used it for the benefit of others. He was to the bone unselfish. Second point. Are we? 10:55. We are 10 minutes past the. Okay, this is a very important point. We will stop with this, maybe. We are all the time from our childhood trying to lay the blame upon something outside ourselves. We are always standing up to set right other people. This guy is wrong, that guy is wrong, this should have been this way, the train is bad, the train is coming late because of the driver, he went for a smoke, he should have come early, the station master is sleeping, I mean the ticket color, what do you call the checking inspector is not on time. I mean we have a 100 list of them for why the train is coming late. We are always standing up to set right other people, but not ourselves. If this is a very important point, friends. If we are miserable, we say, oh, the world is a devil's world. We curse others and say, what infatuated fools. We tell others. Let's be frank, I have told. During my formative years, I wasn't able to tolerate these kind of things. But why should we be in such a world if we really are so good? If this is a devil's world, we must be devils also. Why else should we be here? Oh, the people of the world are so selfish. True enough. But why should we be found in that company if we are better? When a finger points the fault of the others, the three of them are pointing to ourselves. So, we have a lot of thinking that needs to go in, and we should hold the responsibility on our shoulders. And if we know that the past actions have decided the present, let us know very well that the present action is going to decide the future. With one example, I will stop this presentation and go for more questions. There was a guy, when Swamiji was trekking, I should say, not trekking in the sense of a pleasure trek, but it was during those wandering days. He was climbing the peaks in Rishikesh. There was a co-traveler, an old man. He must have been in mid-40s. He is old compared to Swamiji. Swamiji must have been in mid-20s. Okay, so then this co-traveler was walking along with Swamiji, giving him company, both giving mutual company. And at one instant, he found himself completely exhausted. Who? The co-traveler. And he says, sir, you please proceed. I am done with it. I can't do any more. You please go without me. Then Swamiji said, no, you can. Why, let us rest for a while. No, I am done. I'm completely exhausted. So then Swamiji spoke those words. You see, look at the path below. We have already climbed. We have already scaled quite a bit of height. And that was above you to begin with. Now it is beneath you. In a trice, the road that lays ahead will also come under your feet. I mean, this message of hope, I personally would say, I got extremely benefited. Even in the present times, I would say. As an administrator, we find quite often non-negotiable terms where we feel like putting rest to all this nonsense and calling a quit game. Bold say sannyasin, you are free, and get rid of all the shackles and bondages. That's very easy to do, by the way. But then can I hold on to the post and do a careful navigation and take the ship across? And that is the steep road that lies ahead. And Swami Vivekananda's message comes even now as a new source of hope. Thank you very much. Yeah.
How cannot affect human destiny, although some of the things are decided by the stars position according to our birth chart?
That's a very good question. See, the birth chart is not wrong, by the way. When Swami Vivekananda says the stars can be crushed, can be moved away from the path, he didn't mean to say that the stars don't exist.